series that rates on Rotten Tomatoes with 100%, with critics 95% of the audience. Please give it up for Ralph Macchio. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
I don't know. We didn't talk about Cobra Kai last year, but now the floor is certainly open. And wow, thank you. I mean, thank you guys for Cobra Kai. You've honored yourselves, you've honored this franchise, and you've honored all the fans of it by creating something that has grown with the fans. And that's what I really like about it. It doesn't try to pander, it doesn't try to go to the nostalgia thing. It's like, I was 15 when it came out, and now I feel like it's written to me as a 40-something man. So thank you for that, and thank you so much. So before we open it up to two, let's talk a little bit about, let's go back to the beginning. When did the original Karate Kid become a blip in your individual radars?
A blip?
Yes. When did you first get that call saying, hey, you want to do a karate movie?
Yeah, no, I auditioned, you know, I heard my manager, agent at the time said that, you know, you're auditioning for this role in this movie called The Karate Kid, which was like, that's the worst title in the world. And maybe I had the foresight to figure that I'd have to carry it for the rest of my life. But I auditioned for John Avildsen, our great director, and was lucky enough to be the right guy at the right time. And so that's how I got into it.
What's up, everybody? I feel like we should do a little catwalk out here or something. I feel really distant. Should we do a catwalk? What? There it is! Well, let's see. I was born in New York. New York City. Moved to California when I was 10, to a brother and a sister. What about Karate Kid?
No, you keep going.
So I was acting. When I was in high school, I started acting when I was 10 years old, doing commercials. And I did a bunch of commercials till I was 17. I was with a commercial agent. And at that time, when I graduated high school, I said, hey, I'd like to be in movies or television. If there's any auditions, send me out on them. And I went on a few auditions, and one of them was for The Karate Kid. I got the phone call. I was at a gym, literally in a tank top and a headband. And they wanted me to
even back then, you knew.
Back then it was real. I actually showed up. I think my first time was in a tank top and a headband to meet Caro Jones and Penny DuPont, their casting directors at Columbia. And I had no idea what it was for. They handed me a script called The Karate Kid, said read the part of Johnny, come back and audition for it tomorrow. And I went home and read it. And it was a black belt, and he was a motorcycle gang leader, and I didn't know karate, and I never rode a motorcycle, so I thought there's no chance this is gonna happen. But I went back the next day, and I met with John Avildsen, and through a series of elimination of other actors, I ended up being with Ralph, and I think there were 3 of us left, and they chose me. And then actually the other guys are some of the other Cobra Kais.
I looked at this as another heavy. I was doing Cagney and Lacey at the time, and it was a TV series, and I never liked the title, as Ralph didn't. And I was given the script the night before and said, you have all week to learn it. And then all of a sudden the next morning, she said, John Avildsen wants to see you on the set in 3 hours, it's now or never. And I used all the venom I felt and the anger I felt that I couldn't really represent myself well because I hadn't studied this piece. And I used all this venom, and my ex-wife said to me, she said, why don't you take all this evil and venom into the scene? And mercy is for the weak, which is the audition scene up and down the dojo, screaming mercy is for the weak here, and on the streets if someone confronts you. And I went to the audition, and before I said a word, I looked at John Avildsen, the director, And I said, you know, we wait to meet directors of your caliber, we fire our agents and fire our managers. And here you have me here with no preparation. You're a real asshole. And so are you, Caro Jones. Boom! Went right into Mercies for the Week. He loved it. He loved being abused. Did the same to Jerry Weintraub, and they thought I was dark enough to give me the part, and they did.
And now let's flash ahead to the 21st century. just when we thought things had gone their own direction with the movie remake they did a couple of years ago, and we'll leave that where it is. When did Cobra Kai become start flipping on your guys?
I was at the gym working out.
I'm not surprised.
I had a little bit of a tank top. My manager called me. I think I got the email first. It was the three guys that wrote it: Josh, John, and Hayden, the three great writers of Cobra Kai. They're the reason we're here. They had this idea, and they called me for a meeting, and they had no idea what it was for. John and Hayden did the Harold and Kumar franchise, an American Reunion. I worked with the writer Josh Heald on Hot Tub Time Machine, so I knew the guys. And they called me for a movie I imagine would be something along those lines. And then we went and sat down, and they pitched Cobra Kai, and I think my jaw hit the floor. And I said, wow. I said, well, this did take a lot to make this happen. You can't just go and do this. You have to have the backing of the studio and this and that. And they had already gone through all the hoops, and they had Sony on board, and Will Smith's company, Overbrook, who owns some of the rights to Karate Kid, was on board. And I said, okay, what's left? I'm in, you know, now what do we got to get? And they said, Ralph Macchio. So good luck with that one.
So I got a call, actually from my lawyer at the time who represents John and Hayden as well, and said, you know, he said, there's a project, they want to pitch this to you, and I said, well, what is it? He said, well, I'll leave that up to them. And then my manager called, and I didn't know this, but they've been in it, going at it back and forth for a couple of weeks as they wanted to set up a meeting, but my manager was sort of protecting me, making sure everything was in order, like Billy's saying, having all the parts, the studio and all the rights and everything else. So they flew to New York. We had like a 4-hour lunch. They said, we want to do a show called Cobra Kai. It's like, okay. What is it? And then they started talking about bullying and about bullying back in our day and bullying presently. And they started talking about themes that made sense. They started talking about entering the world from the perspective of whatever happened to Johnny Lawrence and that being the door into the show. And then they started talking about finding flaws within both characters where each episode feels right. But, you know, how are we, what's the next step? And the next step took a lot of time because it just does. But fortunately, once we pitched it, and we pitched it all down the line. I mean, Netflix and HBO and Hulu and Amazon, they all heard it. YouTube would not let it go. And once that was set, we were off to the races right away. And so that's how we got involved with it. Marty's story. He was the big, you know, secret, you know, Christmas present at the end that we couldn't talk about. So Marty can tell you his journey.
Just to, you know, cut to the chase, the description of the writers worked for both Ralph and Billy as well for me. We had a very simple lunch in September, and they knew our characters better than almost we did. And they said, Marty, we want you to come on episode 10 and set up the season, be the hook to set up season 2, and you'll be a regular in season 2. I said, well, why can't I come in episode 6 or 7? And they said, no. They really were very specific. They were not insistent, but they were very specific with their creativity. And I said, all right, I'm on, you know. And my question was, are you going to make him a continuous bad guy? Or is he going to have some definable traits of vulnerability? And they said something very simple that locked me right in. They said, we're going to make him a little bit bad and a little bit good. So I signed on, and the rest is history, you know.